Welcome back. You're watching Credlin. This is Chris Smith. It's good to have your company. As I said at the top of the show, the inmates have taken over and they've begun wielding their power. Ahead of next week's Job Summit, the government has left us in no doubt as to who's actually in charge. The unions. Sally McManus, head of the ACTU, unveiling a new plan today for unions to have the power to strike pay deals covering multiple workplaces to help increase wages. Does that sort of ring a bell from about 45, 50 years ago? Good luck running a business in 2022 if you're going to need a lot of luck. So joining me now to tell us just what kind of an impact this back to the future approach to wages will have on the economy is the Chief Executive of the Australian Industry Group, Willox. Ines, welcome to the program. This is a case of coming into land from overseas and the pilot says to the passengers, yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Australia. Please turn your watches back 60 years. She's kidding, isn't she?
Well, good evening, Chris. Well, this is a big throwback. They come up with it every now and then, the ACTU, a version of this, if not this exact proposal. But the fact that they've come up with it a week before what could be an important jobs and skills summit where some good things could be done to help move the economy forward is pretty alarming that they've come up with it now. And they would expect support for a proposal which would mean greater industrial action for small business and business generally, the potential for greater union intervention in workplaces, pay deals to be worked out sort of in back rooms rather than by the businesses themselves. So no matter your size, no matter your geography, no matter the condition of your business, no matter your ambitions, you would get hit with the same wage increase as everyone else. You'd have no say in it. You just have to absorb it. There'd be no productivity gains negotiated or guaranteed as part of that. It is a recipe for disaster. Now, as you said, and we've been saying now, ever since this came up, this is a throwback to the 70s. We'd throw a blanket over businesses across sectors, and it would mean that our economy would be less creative, less innovative, less productive. And all of these conversations over the next week are about productivity. This would make it less productive. And in the end, it would cost jobs, no doubt about it. So this should just be knocked on the head from the first moment. It's very pleasing that business generally has come out against it. There is, quite strangely, I think some smaller business organisations have said, let's have a look at it. Perhaps they don't understand the implications of this or the history of this.
Well, the history goes back to the late 60s, 70s when we had a centralised wage fixing system. But as you rightly say, no two workplaces are the same, Ines. That's why we have enterprise bargaining. That's why we deal only when we're dealing with the lowest common denominator to give people a wage rise, the minimum wage. You can't consider every workplace the same, can you?
No, you can't. And what the unions are asking here is for the government to throw out what was a process or a system put in place by Labor governments, agreed to in the 1980s and to break centralised wage fixing because they realised it was a handbrake on the economy at a time when we were opening up, and then to overthrow the current system, the version of it that we have that the Labor government put in place in 2010. What we say, Chris, is that it does need some fixing and some tweaking, but that's mostly around process and systems. It's become too technical, too complicated, too complex, both for businesses and employees to get agreements done. There's still the will to get them done because of the productivity benefits. It's just become too complex. So you say no two businesses are the same. So you have, Chris's widgets down the road from Ines's widgets. We're making the same thing, but we're at different points of growth. We've got different ambitions around markets we should sell to. We've got different staff numbers. It wouldn't matter under this. We'd both get hit with the same wage increase and just have to cop it. It makes no sense.
That explains it so right. Now, I presume you've got one of these Willy Wonka golden tickets to the Job Summit. It's supposed to, as you've said, be about productivity, which creates jobs. But the closer it gets to next week, Ines, the more it looks like a union power trip.
Well, I will be there representing our members from right across Australian industry. And look, the unions have put out a lot over the past week or so around trying to gum up the migration system. Now this around wages. There'll be more to come over the next week for sure around how they'd like to take the economy back rather than move it forward. But I'm going there, and other business representatives are going there, I am sure, to try to work with government and unions around how to advance the economy. There's a lot we can do. We have massive labour shortages, massive skill shortages. Got to address those. There are other issues around labour mobility we can look at, issues that impact on workplaces and workers and employers right across the country, where we can make a lot of progress, and hopefully we'll start that process. But it's not helped with some of these proposals which came off the rodeo machine from 1972.
Just a couple of short words from you about the Greens' socialism on steroids housing policy, an emergency 2-year freeze on all rents, nationalising rents. They're kidding, aren't they?
The basis of any functioning society, Chris, is property law and property rights, and it's the right of people to manage property and use property as they see fit. And I think, thankfully and hopefully, correctly, the Prime Minister has completely thrown that proposal, off the balcony. It's just it's another throwback, and it goes way back before 1972. Let me say.
Yes, it's nuts. Willox, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.